Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about roasting the perfect turkey. What we're going to be doing is going through the Healthy Butcher's Guide to Roasting the Perfect Turkey, which is the ultimate guide for doing this, and you can find this link posted below. The very first thing you need to do is start off with a great quality turkey. So ensure that your turkey was raised humanely, the feed was a top quality feed, and there was no use of hormones or antibiotics. If you're shopping at the Healthy Butcher or Real Food Toronto, we've already taken care of this for you because we only source the very best turkeys that Ontario has to offer. How big of a turkey do you need? Well, if you're like me, the bigger the turkey, the better. But the general rule is 1.3 pounds for every guest. So if you have 11 guests coming for dinner, then you need a 15-pound turkey. Lucky for me, I have a 15-pound turkey and 11 guests coming over tonight. So let's get started. Very first step now is brining our turkey. What is a brine, a lot of us ask? Well, brining is a secret weapon to ensure that your turkey turns out absolutely outstanding. Basically what it is a salt water solution that you're going to submerge your turkey into. The first step is going to create even salinity throughout all the meat. The second thing it does is it denatures our proteins so that the meat can actually hold and retain that water during the cooking process. Wow, does that sound like a mouthful? The bottom line is if you start with a 15-pound turkey, you will end with a 15-pound turkey, but you will also retain all that moisture. So when you are cutting and when you are eating, every single bite is extremely juicy and flavorful. First thing we need is a brine mixture. You can make your own, and we have instructions in our Ultimate Roasting Guide, or you can just pick up a predetermined brine kit. These brine kits are great though because they can give you full instructions, and they've also been tried, tested, and true for weights. And so if you do not want to mess around with the type of salt versus the quantity of turkey that you're dealing with, just picking up a brine kit means that you're going to have an absolutely flawless experience brining. Let's head on over to our stovetop now. Alright, as you can see here, I've got a pot of water boiling. I've only got a few liters in here because all I really need to do is dissolve the salt. But I always start with water in my pot first. If I put salt in there to begin with and then I should bring it up to a boil, the salt will eventually pit my pot. And if you've got one of these beautiful Le Creuset pots, you don't want to be pitting your pot. Say that 10 times fast. Okay, now what is inside this brine? Let's take a look. The very first thing that you'll notice is that we're using a type of granulated sea salt. This is very important. You can't just substitute a cup of finely granulated salt with sea salt or kosher salt. It's very important that you follow whatever recipe that you're using when you're making it, because granulated salt is a lot finer and therefore a lot more dense. So if the recipe calls for a cup of it, you could be adding a cup of, let's say, kosher salt. You could be adding twice as much salt if you just use granulated salt. And then you're going to have a very salty turkey. So in this case here, we use a very specific type of salt. Now this brine kit is perfect for a 20-pound turkey. But because we only have a 15-pound turkey, I only need to use 3/4 of this kit. That means the other quarter of it I can use for a chicken later down the road. Or maybe some pork chops, something like that. The other thing that's in here are going to be a whole bunch of aromatic spices. I've got some dehydrated citrus peel, I've got peppercorns, white, black, red, there's some thyme in there, there's a whole bunch of different types of herbs in there. These are all going to just dance on your olfactory system. So when people go to actually take a bite of their turkey, all of a sudden they're going to be getting hints of citrus and hints of pepper and hints of thyme and hints of oregano, and that is just a magical experience. It's amazing how your olfactory system works. So I'm going to add 3/4 of this kit to my pot. Once this is all dissolved, I'm going to turn off the heat, and then I'm going to cool down my brine, but I want to bring this brine back up to a boil. And oh wow, you can't smell that, but it just smells magical right now. It's like Christmas and Thanksgiving, all other major holidays just rolled up into one pot, just dancing in my nose. Okay, let's turn off the heat. Now, very, very important step. In order to brine a turkey, I must brine a cold turkey with a cold brine. Now, ideally, you would make this brine the day before, but let's be honest, like a lot of times we're in a rush, we're trying to get everything done in time, so you need to cool down your turkey, or cool down your brine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a whole bunch of ice to this brine to help cool it down. Okay, so now I've got a turkey, I've got a cold brine. Now we're going to get our turkey into the brine. Very first step now is I'm going to open up my turkey to get rid of the neck. Sometimes there's all kinds of giblets in there, and so let's see what kind of fun surprises are in store for us inside this turkey. We got a liver. I'm just going to cut off the excess neck fat as well, or neck skin. Don't need that in there, and it's always a good idea to take a look to see if you've got any large clumps of fat just around this opening. We want to do this just because these pieces of fat become really just jello-y, and they're not really appetizing to eat. Okay, so at this stage, I'm now going to submerge my turkey and get it ready to brine. Now the brining process takes anywhere between 8 to 24 hours. If it's easier for you to just brine for 8 hours, so put it in just before you go to bed, and when you wake up, pull the turkey out, that is better than if for some reason you're going away for an entire day to leave it in brine. Because if you brine for 36 hours, then you run the risk of over brining, and it's very, very hard to get rid of that excess salt. Now at this stage here, I'm going to put this bird into my fridge and allow it to brine. I generally, for a bird that's about 15 pounds, I'll brine for anywhere between 8 to 12 hours. But you can brine as long as 24 hours. Okay, so we've let this brine overnight. It's extremely pumped now. And now we're just going to rinse this turkey, rinse all the brine off and let it sit for half an hour. I'm just going to pat this dry now. And I'm going to give this turkey about 30 minutes to just sit like this. Before I get it prepared to go in the oven. Now in the meantime, this is a great time for us to get started on our herb butter. And we're going to be putting this herb butter underneath the skin, and it's just going to create a little bit of butter magic with this turkey. Now we're going to make a herb butter, otherwise known as a compound butter. Like all great ingredients, you got to start with the best type of butter. Here I've brought for you just an absolutely incredible butter that we sell at the Healthy Butcher. You can use any type of great or your favorite butter that's out there. So I have this sitting in a metal bowl, and this butter is up at room temperature. Now I'm going to be adding a little bit of olive oil to the mixture. I will be adding some different types of herb ingredients. So here I've got some sage, some thyme, some parsley, some tarragon, chopped chives, chopped garlic, and some chopped shallots. Now just to heighten the flavor, I'm going to be squeezing in some lemon juice. Now if you've got any cuts on your hand, this is a great way to find out about it. Now we mix. Now, a lot of times mixing compound butters, you can just get your hands right in there. And let's face it, this butter is not just yummy to eat, but it's really good for your skin. If you ever feel my hands, you'll be like, wow, Dave, how do you have such nice soft skin on your hands? And I'll say, it's because I make compound butters quite often. Now, I often make a lot more compound butter than I need, and then I will freeze it in what's called a torchon. And I'm going to show you how to make a torchon afterwards. Now this is the most fun part of preparing our turkey. What we're going to do is we're going to get our hand in between the skin and the flesh. A brine turkey is so much easier to do this. The brine really loosens up a lot of the proteins that bind the skin to the flesh, and it just is a lot easier to get our hands into here. And you almost have to be careful because it's so easy to tear the skin now that the bird has been brined. So I'm going to take a little bit of this butter. And I'm just going to massage it underneath the skin. Get as much of the butter distributed under the skin as possible. This is going to give me such amazing flavor. And it's going to help me crisp up my skin that much more. It's going to be absolutely remarkable. All right, finally, I'm just going to truss my turkey, and then we're going to get it into the pan and get it into the oven. Trussing is easy, and we're going to go through this step by step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of butcher's twine that's cut at about 1.5 meters. I'm going to wrap it around where the tail feathers are, otherwise known as the Pope's nose. And I'm going to tie a knot around the Pope's nose, like so. I'm then going to take this twine and go around the drumsticks, so the drumsticks come together and get crossed and get pulled down towards the Pope's nose. I'm going to follow the crease between the drumsticks and the breast, come on the inside of these wings, flip my turkey over, and then I'm going to do a knot where I go around once, go around twice, pull the knot nice and tight, and now tie a second knot to commit that knot. I'm going to cut off the extra twine, and now I'm going to fold my wings back so my turkey sits upon my wings. As you can tell, I did not stuff this turkey. I'm not a big fan of stuffing the turkeys, but if you do, there's a couple general rules. The first rule is cold stuffing inside a cold turkey. You should stuff your turkey the night before. Stuffing will increase the cooking time that will take. So what we generally recommend is cook your stuffing on the side. I know it defeats the purpose of the word stuffing, but it is the best way to go about doing it. Now I'm going to take my truss turkey and I'm going to be putting it on my bed of pre-cut vegetables. These vegetables are going to turn out amazing in the end, and they're going to help flavor all the drippings so I can make an absolutely outstanding pan drip gravy. To lid or not to lid. This is a 15-pound turkey that we're going to be putting in the oven at 325. This particular bird does not need a lid or need to be tented. I'm just going to be cooking it at 325 for 4 to 4.5 hours. If you have a very big turkey, let's say 20, 25 pounds, that I would either put a lid on it or tent it. It will help speed up the cooking process. You are going to want to remove your lid or your tent after about 2 hours of the roasting period if you are cooking a very large bird. After 3.5 hours, I'm going to take my turkey out of the oven. I will take my instant read thermometer and I'm going to insert it into the thickest part of the thigh, being careful to avoid both bone and the cavity. I want the thermometer just inside meat, and I want that thermometer to read for me 165. Once it reads 165, then I'm going to tent my turkey and let it rest for 20 to 30 minutes before carving. If you are not carving an entire turkey in front of your guests, so if I'm not taking this entire turkey to carve in front of all my guests, stay tuned for my next video on how to spatchcock a turkey. This is going to help you be able to cook this whole turkey in a fraction of the time and give you the same juicy results. Thank you much for joining us, and hope your holidays turn out great.